Chapter 26 of The Seventh Most Important Thing by Shelley Pearsall. On the following Saturday, February 8th, it was raining, a steady, cold rain, and there were no messages from Mr. Hampton when Arthur arrived, which was odd. Arthur was so sure he had found the perfect chair, the perfect throne, for Mr. Hampton that he was kind of disappointed the guy hadn't left a single word to thank him. A little note would have been nice, especially after all the hassle he'd gone through to haul the chair back to the garage. He thought he should have gotten a few hours deducted from his probation just for that. Strangely, the shopping cart was missing too. Arthur walked around outside, carefully stepping over the piles of old concrete blocks and junk, looking for the cart. He wasn't sure what to do. Mr. Hampton had never forgotten to leave him an assignment before, no matter what the weather was, and he'd collected junk for the guy in a lot worse weather than this. On his second walk around the building, Arthur happened to notice that the side door of the garage was slightly open, just a small crack. That was strange, he thought. It had never been open before. Had Mr. Hampton forgotten to lock it? Or did the open door mean he was supposed to go in? Something about the open door made him nervous. There was no sign of anyone else around. He couldn't see any lights on inside. He couldn't hear anyone working. He glanced toward Groovy Jim's shop, wondering if he should go and ask him for help. But Groovy Jim had a customer, a rare occurrence, and he didn't want to bother him. Plus, he thought it would sound kind of crazy if he interrupted someone's tattoo to say he was jumpy about a missing shopping cart and an open door. It was 11 o'clock on a Saturday morning, not midnight, for cripe's sake. Arthur decided he would knock on the side door and call out for Mr. Hampton. If the guy wasn't there or didn't answer, he'd go home and let Officer Billy know that nobody had been around. He hoped he'd still get credit for his 4 hours and hadn't slogged around in the pouring rain for nothing. Taking a deep breath, Arthur rapped his knuckles on the door frame and shouted through the dark opening, "Hey, Mr. Hampton, it's Arthur Owens out here. It's Saturday. Can I help you with anything today?" He knew it sounded really dumb, but he didn't know what else to say. It was how his mom always answered the phone at the dentist's office when he called her. "Hello, this is Linda at Dr. Driscoll's office. Can I help you with anything today?" Honestly, he wasn't expecting a reply to his question, but right after he said, "Can I help you with anything today?" there was a noise inside the garage. It sounded as if a can or something metallic had suddenly hit the floor. Arthur backed away from the door. He could feel his heart speed up. Was there something in there? He glanced around for an object to use as a weapon if he needed it. A plank of wood with a couple of rusty nails sticking out of it lay on the ground nearby. He picked it up gingerly and used it to push the door open a little wider, thinking maybe whatever was inside would come running out. Nothing did. There was an old paint can lid next to his feet, he noticed. Just to see what would happen, he picked it up and tossed it into the darkness. He could hear the lid rolling and spinning across what must be a cement floor. Again, nothing. Arthur took another deep breath, telling himself he was 13 years old and should have more guts. He had survived 3 weeks in juvie with Slash. He'd gone up against half of the varsity football team at his school to rescue Squeak from the trash can. It was ridiculous to be scared of a garage in the middle of the day. Still holding the piece of nail-studded wood, Arthur eased cautiously through the doorway. His wet shoes squelched on the cement, which was the only sound, other than his heart pounding in his ears, he could hear at first. Silently, he searched along the side of the doorframe for a light switch. He was sure there must be one nearby, especially if Mr. Hampton worked there late at night, which Groovy Jim said he did sometimes. The old guide wouldn't wander around blindly in the dark. Arthur's fingers finally found the switch next to the door. Instinctively, he squinted before pushing the switch upward, as if expecting it to be painfully bright, like suddenly going from a dark room into the blazing sunlight. But he definitely wasn't prepared for the dazzling vision that awaited him.